Movie reviews by Robin Anthony.
Lincoln was one of the gifted vampire hunters of his day and kept a secret journal about his lifelong war against them.
That is true.
Yeah.
In the new book.
Abraham Lincoln, vampire hunter. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Tonight we're talking about Alice in Wonderland, directed by Tim Burton.
Yes.
Now, we were dreading seeing this, and it's about almost 3 in the morning now, because we saw the midnight. We didn't get to see the IMAX 3D. Got to see the regular 3D, because IMAX 3D was sold out.
Yeah, man.
Because there was people dressed as Alice. I didn't see any Mad Hatters.
Ugly girls dresses.
Fat girls dressed as Alice.
I don't want to say fat, just in case any of our viewers are fat.
Well, no, I meant like...
Nothing like it. I like Sean's fat. I like fat people.
It's just people shouldn't be wearing very tight, revealing dresses.
Yeah.
But, okay, going into it, Tim Burton. Everybody knows Tim Burton. Mm-hmm. He's directed some wonderful movies.
Like Batman.
Beetlejuice.
Edward Scissorhands.
Recently, Sweeney Todd. A lot of people don't like that one. I like Sweeney Todd.
Big Fish is one of my favorites.
Big Fish, excellent movie. Ed Wood.
Oh, yes. Excellent movie.
And then you start to see a pattern with recent Tim Burton movies with Johnny Depp. Like Ed Wood, Edward Scissorhands, Sweeney Todd,
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That was another one of the recents that, not one of my favorites. But Tim Burton is kind of lately been recognized as kind of a miss director, not a hit director. Yeah. Like a lot of people didn't like Sweeney Todd. I liked it because I like musicals and opera.
I liked it because I'm a big Sweeney Todd fan.
Yeah. Barber of Butcher Street. Butcher Street. Butch Street. But then Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think, was one of the most disappointing Johnny Depp roles.
Pedophile.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Not saying anything to the late Michael Jackson, but his character was clearly had those things going on.
Yeah.
But we were like, okay, Mad Hatter. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because Mad Hatter is not a big role in the Alice in Wonderland movies. Now, and if anyone did not know, this movie is a sequel to the Alice in Wonderland, I would say Disney movie.
Yeah.
Because
it's made by Disney.
I know that, number one, if you are a extreme Alice in Wonderland fan, because tonight we saw it with one of our friends who is an extreme Alice in Wonderland fan. Yeah, she loves them. She read both Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. And she told me, I was not aware of this, but they are actually 2 different worlds and 2 different adventures. And the White Queen and the Queen of Hearts they're not part of the same world. Let alone, I don't know, because I've never read it, like I said, but I don't think they were sisters. And if they were, they weren't in the same world. Yeah. So the movie, of course, incorporated things from both worlds.
Yeah.
And it made it into a story. If you don't know the story, it takes place 13 years after the original Alice in Wonderland events. She, of course, no longer has the memory of the events. She thinks they were only a dream.
Yeah.
And she is proposed to, or basically forced into an arranged proposal of marriage, and runs off in a state of
from Drop Dead
confusion. Fred. He seems like he is. The guy she's getting married to seems like he's from Drop Dead Fred. Yeah. And of course happens into Wonderland, where it throws into a very complicated sort of you are the chosen one story.
It's been foretold.
Complicated but boring. Complicated because they keep saying names of places and things that if you're not familiar with
I know
the
nothing
readings,
about.
You're like, what did they just say? And they never say it again. The what creature?
Yeah.
The where?
They could have just called it the dragon. That would have sufficed.
Now, a big problem I think some people will have is that there's not enough plot build-up. But I don't think that was necessary personally for me, because I think it's a direct sequel of like the old Disney movie. If you knew the events of the first one, you shouldn't have a problem jumping into the events of this one. But if you're not into those things, or you're not familiar with the characters or whatever, you might be a little confused.
I was a little confused because I think I saw Alice in Wonderland once when I was a kid, and that was like a long time. I don't remember it.
Yeah, well, it didn't have, and that was another thing. It more so felt like an homage to Alice in Wonderland, where they would throw characters in there, and you'd be like, oh yeah, and then some of them would disappear, and then other ones, like the Mad Hatter, who I've had conversations with people, and they brought it to my attention, and I totally agree. The Mad Hatter originally was a completely insane person, said by his name. He doesn't have a clear, thought process. He can't if you told him one thing, he would immediately think of another thing, and then a second later think of another thing. He can't carry anything, let alone a conversation.
Yeah.
Yet this movie makes him more psychotic than
And
crazy.
Scottish at some points?
He like, I think it was more so he had like an angry twitch, where he would be normal one second, and the next he would be vengeful and hateful. He's kind of like Jiminy Glick. Really fun he's in, and I wanted to kill him. And it was
just like the scene where they walk through the forest and he's just going on about some story which Kat was telling us, like some poem about the dragon.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And his voice changes and his like persona changes and he's just like a very different character for like 40 seconds and then he snaps out of it. And he does that every so often. Where he'll jump into this like Scottish character.
I think they just couldn't. They
voice.
couldn't make him mad. They couldn't make him. They didn't. They put Johnny Depp into another character role where he was switching between characters or playing older characters. I felt a little bit of Jack Sparrow in there at times, and I was just like, I really wanted the old cartoon, the guy who's in Mary Poppins laughing when he floated to the ceiling. I wanted that guy because he was really crazy and he worked. So let's talk about actors and actresses that appear in it. Of course, we have Johnny Depp. He's like the forerunner, even though he's supposed to be a minor character. I think his character was completely ridiculous in this. I mean, I can't say he didn't do a horrible job as a performance, but then again, I don't know what his performance was because it was all over the place and not a plus.
I think it was a big thing for promoting the movie. Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Helena Bonham Carter's in it.
She plays the Queen of Hearts. I think she did an excellent job. They had some CG work where her head is giant, but her body is small. Yeah. But I think, as far as like how I pictured the Queen of Hearts, originally in the cartoon she was a very bulbous, fat woman. Yeah. I guess they made this whole theme with her head being large. I dug it. It was okay.
And then all the people that surrounded her had like weird defects, like the one with like the flat boobs and the giant nose, and they got like the 5 chins and the big ears.
Yeah, it kind of, it added some of its own elements, and I wanted it to be a little original, so that worked for me. Another big favorite of this film, because it was Crispin Glover. He appeared, and he plays, was it Spade or Payne?
They just call him the Red Knight.
Well, they called it by a name throughout the entire thing, but it was, like I said earlier, it's one of those things where they keep saying it, you don't know what they're saying, and they never, like, explain it or whatever. But it was really interesting because, I mean, you've seen in probably the trailer, he has the heart across it, the heart eye patch, because he's got scars and whatever. But his head is placed on a very unnaturally lanky and unnatural human body.
That's what I was thinking, because the way it walks, I was like, is that like a CG body?
It was complete, it had to be a CG body, but it worked, because it was his movement was very creepy. Yeah. And that only leads me to a side segue, the visuals of the movie.
Oh, they're really good.
If you're going to see the movie, I don't recommend it for the plot or whatever, I recommend it for the visuals. And if you're going to see it in 3D, and if you can, bring the extra cash.
There are IMAX. Some I wasn't really paying attention to 3D, but there were parts that was like kind of like pop out at
in the very beginning when she first enters Wonderland.
Like, blah, blah, blah.
Very 3D.
And every time the crazy rabbit throws something, it's like whoa.
Mm-hmm. The hair was a great character too. Now he was exactly like the cartoon. Crazy. He's how the Mad Hatter should have been. Yeah. Then we had the White Queen,
which is played by oh my god, what's her name?
Why are you drawing a blank, Anthony?
Because I don't know.
You crazy person. That's why I have my cheat sheet here, because I draw blanks too when I get into these discussions. And of course, it's Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway. Why did I forget that?
She had a little bit of a floaty personality. She plays the White Queen. She's the total opposite of the Queen of the Hearts. And she doesn't believe in harming anyone. She walks around like this non-stop. It's very comical, but at the same time, tiresome. Yeah. Every character in this seems more of a caricature. You know, they are themselves personified to the nth degree that it gets on your nerves. Yeah. I think, personally. Stephen Fry did an excellent job as the Cheshire Cat. He's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. That felt very reminiscent of the old Disney cartoon. They got him to a T. The voice was excellent. His mannerisms, I had no problem with that character at all.
Alan Rickman shows up for a little bit.
Alan Rickman plays the voice of the hookah-smoking caterpillar.
Yeah. Christopher Lee shows up for like 10 seconds with like 2 lines.
You'll see that when that was a nice little surprise.
I was like, oh, wow.
And just in general, there was a lot of nostalgia things, like the cards and stuff.
That's why I liked them, because they're like in the metal suits.
Instead of just the cards themselves.
Yeah, but they're shaped like the cards, and they had like the numbers on them.
And the White Queen's knights are actually chess pieces. Yeah. So there's a lot of very cool visuals in this, but overall, the plot felt very boring, very tiresome, very much on the lines of if you have seen like the Chronicles of Narnia, not the first one, but the second one, Prince Caspian.
Yeah.
It felt very reminiscent of that story. They had to infiltrate the castle, had to stop the bad guy. You know what's going to happen. You're along for the ride. And that was that.
Yeah, I was kind of bored throughout the movie.
I mean, a child will definitely like it.
Oh, yeah.
As far as if I was making direct comparisons to my enjoyment through other Tim Burton films, I would say that I enjoy this much more than Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was a complete butchery.
Oh.
But this is definitely not Tim Burton's best work.
I'll stick with Batman Returns.
Batman Returns over Batman?
Over this movie.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice is probably still one of my favorite Tim Burton films. It has so much rewatch value.
Yeah,
and Michael Keaton is an excellent character, even though he's only in it for like 15
Michael Keaton
minutes.
as the Ken doll.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. So, I think my overall rating out of 5 would be a 1.5. It was, like I said, the visuals were very great. It was just the overabundance of Johnny Depp and the very boring and predictable plot.
Yeah.
Oh, you know who we didn't even talk about? Alice.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that.
She did a really good job. She is well, because she's not a very well-known actress. Mia Wasikowska. I'm probably pronunciating that wrong, so please correct me and yell at me in the comments below. But I thought she did a very good job. A lot of white makeup, a lot of stretched kids. She was in Amelia and Defiance. We should have recognized her from Defiance,
yeah, that old
even
girl
though we hated that
who's like in
movie.
love with the younger brother.
Yeah. So, but yeah, what your overall review?
Give it a 3 out of 10 because I didn't get to know any of the characters. I didn't really care for anyone. I was really bored, and my favorite part was the trailer for Tron Legacy.
That was very cool. 3D.
Check that out in December.
So, until next week, if we do see a movie next week, if not, we'll do a review of a movie that we both like or something like, or not like, either way. But subscribe, rate, comment, and
pick up Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
or you'll end up in Wonderland
Yes.
with a bad